Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We've talked before about anxiety. You probably have even heard since COVID, the number of people with reported anxiety has escalated. Yeah, COVID was a major situation. We're years out of it, although I just saw a post from somebody flying out of a New York City airport, and he said, everybody's wearing masks. You know, how sad. But that fear that came from the anxiety that escalated everything is kind of in the rear view, but the anxiety still is there for a lot of us, or newly diagnosed anxiety, or thought to be. Is it anxiety? What is anxiety? We talk about it, we say it. Do we all have it? We're going to dig into that today. She is a wonderful psychotherapist, works with people anywhere of any type, could be kids, could be adults, couples, relationships, and she's back with us. Susie Engel is on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. Thank you for asking. And how are you?
Real well. And I'm going to start with this question because I say this in my circle, but I wonder if it's actually true. We all have anxiety, yes or no?
Yes, but that doesn't mean we're all diagnosed with anxiety.
I didn't say that. We all suffer from it.
Everybody has anxiety.
Some moment you could be even keel, as they say, cool as a cucumber, everything's fine. And then a situation presents you. Maybe your boss says you have to speak in front of 500 people on Thursday. Make sure you're ready, and it's formal dress. Now, escalation of what we would call anxiety. So, and then after it's done, you might be back at your baseline, everything's cool level, but it is anxiety. So I always wondered if it's, and it helps us in a lot of ways too. We always think of it as a negative.
Yes. That's why it's good to not use that word and to pretty much start saying other ways to describe what we're experiencing. My clients at the start of work often say, and it could be the teens, it could be the children, it could be the adults, my anxiety. And then we start discerning what are you really experiencing and what are you describing? Well, a lot of times it's just average experiences that you're talking about, Steve, which is not diagnosable. It's just that we have a bit of a stress response. We're still able to cope. So a lot of times we have a discussion like, are we in a window of tolerance? You may have heard this from other people you've interviewed or talked with. Are we in a window of tolerance? If we're tolerating and even bumping way up to the top of our window of tolerance, we may feel a stress response, but we're still coping. We're still grounded enough to say, wait a minute, the reality is, I'm not going to go for a swim in the ocean and get torn up by a white shark. Not today.
Right today.
No.
It could happen, though. Let's be honest. At any time, if it's the water's warm enough to swim in, there could be a great white lurking. It's possible. Let's be real.
And also, what if we go to the beach and everybody's like, oh my gosh, there's a jellyfish. There are lots of jellyfish in the ocean where we swim, at least where I swim. And the thing is, then we have a stress response. So we have to make a decision. And some people will still, say, I really hope I don't get stung by a jellyfish. Because, it feels like that rash and it goes away after 20 minutes, but it's not fun. But on the other hand, I really want to have a great time, and it's unlikely. I don't see thousands of them in the ocean. I mean, there are weekends when you go to the beach and you can just visibly see hundreds or thousands of jellyfish. And you might say, I'll wait till the tide changes. But it doesn't matter if there's a possibility or a chance that something negative might happen. It matters what our attitude is. And we don't want to live I know there's a new term. I mean, I don't know how new it is. That's kind of funny. Like risk adverse. We don't want to live fear-based, which I often say, because then our lives get narrower, 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 and we're not really enjoying like the freedom of live and let live.
Stress response is a great descriptor. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And you might just have a moment. So a moment of stress, and that's your response to it.
Yes, and that's natural and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, all of us experience that. So a stress response, well, you said it earlier, you said sometimes it makes us more sharp or perform better. And that's the optimal stress response when we're just nervous enough, stressed enough, afraid enough, where we are gonna nail it.
It's like turbocharge. It's you're the football player, and you're the team that's ahead, and you're walking onto the field during the Super Bowl, and yeah, you probably feel a little anxiety. We got to win this one. Little turbocharge. It pumps you up, but it'll go away after the game. Is it true diagnosed anxiety where you don't have a handle on it? You don't know when it's going away. Yeah, what is the true definition of anxiety, diagnosed anxiety?
Well, let me just go back to that turbocharge, because when we're in stress response, even for a good purpose, our nervous system releases stress hormones. So, that's when we feel that adrenaline, or, there are other stress hormones, norepinephrine, epinephrine, that make us able to run faster than what we usually run, or perform, whether it's a sports event or whether it's a musical event or whether it's a podcast. Or speaking in front, public speaking in front of an audience, whatever that is. So that pumped up feeling is true. And it does carry us through the game. Now, I'm not going to reference like the DSM-5, which is this big encyclopedia of diagnoses that really help people categorize symptoms to understand what a client or a patient might be experiencing. But I would say true anxiety is overwhelming fear, panic, just a lens of fear-based experience that starts this assumption that we have to be vigilant and we have to be overly cautious, or else, or this catastrophic thinking or ruminating thinking, or our body tells us when we're feeling true anxiety. We may have sick feelings. A lot of people say, "Oh, I always get it in my gut. I always get it here, like the words can't come out. I always get it, the tension in my neck and shoulders. I always know." Some people get headaches, so it's somatic as well. So, but true anxiety is just, the extreme lens that everything is fear provoking. That would be like, for me, if I'm talking to clients, this is the way I talk. I'm not going to get into all these other, descriptives that people come up with, because that's how clients describe it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. It's real. You are
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. Overwhelmed, but I'm getting this picture where somebody is diagnosed with anxiety. It's a challenge for them. Not everything, but I'm going to say many things in their life presents as anxiety.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it becomes the norm. And
Right.
then they assume everybody experiences this and everybody lives on high alert or in constant vigilance, or, that risk adverse. So their lives are getting limited and limited in their experiences. And, I think that my hope would be that if most people identify that they experience anxiety because it's a common experience, like depression type stuff. These are common experiences. They don't mean it's diagnosable, but it's a human experience. But my idea would be that if it's to the point where it's impacting your life and relationships, then I think this is a beautiful conversation, because as we get older, it could, cause more and more limitations in life, or phobias, or affect more and more relationships in our lives. And we need healthy relationships with ourselves, let alone with others around us.
Or health issues.
And health issues, not even or.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, talk about the reason why they discovered anxiety as a psychological problem was a sociologist or anthropologist type person studying the human race went to his cardiologist and noticed that in the waiting room, almost everybody was fidgeting. All of the furniture was worn because of the fidgeting.
Wow.
And then that started psychological research studies, and they began to formulate what anxiety is.
Crazy.
So yeah.
I know people who have anxiety diagnosed, and it actually runs in their family, as it does many times. I'm sure you've seen. And I'm just the observer. I'm just looking at it. I know some that have anxiety when issues present, but that same person, when things get quiet, they get anxious. They have anxiety. They almost freak out because they're not used to things calming down.
Oh, I wasn't sure what direction you were going to go till you finished your sentence. And it's so true. It's almost like their norm
Elevated.
is chaos
Yeah.
inside. And get this, another clue of people who are anxious are people who are controlling. Because get it, like if they're feeling out of control internally and they're always churning with their nerves and their vigilance and their stress, and out here, they can be like a little authoritative and a little bit controlling, and they need everything in order. That soothes them for a little bit, because internally, you wouldn't imagine what's going on. I mean, I can imagine what's going on because I work with people, but it's a big foil.
Yeah. As you're saying it, I'm visualizing people I know and that I know have anxiety. They admit it. They're diagnosed, some on meds, just friends, people, family, whatever.
Yeah.
But their method of operation, and some are more controlling. Sometimes they will throw it on you, like ask your opinion on something, but it really comes back to them controlling it. They might make you feel that you're in control, but they really need to have the control. And honestly, for most of them that I'm close to, I say, whatever you say, whatever you want. If it's going to eat someplace, what are you feeling? But I'm good with it. Whatever you want. If it's to go somewhere, it's like, what time you want to show up?
Right.
I just don't care anymore. It doesn't bother me. It's like, and it's not like I'm just waving the flag. It's just, I don't care. It's all right.
Yeah. But I mean, I like to understand that about certain people.
For sure.
That when they it's almost like showing your poker tell.
Face. Yeah.
You know, and if somebody is, or I see it in a lot of parents when families come, and then I understand, like, these parents are really, really nervous. I mean, it's very stressful to be parents, but they don't want to show, so they have this stoic, controlling, and it's not healthy for the relationship because it really pushes the children. They're not feeling the attunement, they're feeling the fear and the stress. So then the kids, start absorbing it. And a lot of times things are predisposed genetically, but if environmentally we've already coped with this and figured it out in therapy, then we're not transferring it to the next generation. And so even if it's in our genealogy, it doesn't mean that it has to present in day-to-day life. But when it does present, it could also be because of these environmental, like my mother, not my mother personally, but if I said, as an example, hypothetically, my mother was always worried about being late to a situation and would rush, and then wouldn't want anybody in the family to leave the house without looking perfectly prim and proper, but then we were always in a rush. And that comes back to when there is calm, chaos, because everything is uber stressed. And I don't mean Uber, the company.
You said the word, so I was just about to go there. Anxiety, stress. Are they the same?
Yes.
Are they exactly the same?
No.
Difference is?
Like if people started emailing me, maybe they would start like, like, let's hear from the audience here.
Instant feedback, Steve@gmail.com if you want to weigh in. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you did that a couple of podcasts ago about music. I wonder if people responded.
Oh,
well, you're going to have to go through and like
take a look. Yeah.
We'll have to follow up on that one.
That's right.
But I mean, is it exactly the same? No, I mean, it's pretty similar. I mean, it's fear response. So if we sense, our lookout, we have like a whole team of defenses that are on the lookout so we can do our day-to-day business. And if the defense team, like a football team, senses a problem or danger or a threat or a memory of something like that, it's going to like kind of elbow in on the day-to-day stuff and take over in whatever way that defense knows how to do it, which means, either, well, I'm not going to walk down the hotel hallway because there may be a stranger in the hallway, so I'll stay in the hotel.
Okay, so let's look at that and other similar scenarios.
Yeah.
And we're going to pivot over to, excuse us for a moment, slight woo-woo, spirituality, just for a moment. I want to get your feedback on this. Stress, anxiety is a response to protect you, right? For the most part, it's internally a defense, yes. Right? Is it reasonable to go with your intuition in a situation, being able to really tap into your intuition? If you could, let's just say, I believe I'm pretty good with intuition. Took me some time to really hear it, listen to it. I'm in a better place with it. And I think that supports my level of stress and anxiety. Not that I had a lot, I was an anxious kid, but I worked on it.
It supports your management of stress and anxiety to keep your levels low.
Sure.
Yes.
You're in that hotel situation you just described, or any situation. It might be you're afraid you're going to lose your job. The boss looked at you, a funny way, and you're like, anxiety, stress elevates. I get it. But if you were to tap into the intuition they say we all have, and some are different levels because we're able to block out the clutter and tap deeper into it. Would that be a good way to minimize it? If you really, all right, what am I worried about here? What am I feeling?
Well,
yes. I'm going with that.
And what you're speaking to is, I mean, we could view intuition as, and I think we've discussed this here and there, but not in depth. Intuition is also our relationship with ourselves and
Yes.
our sense of security
Yes.
within ourselves. So if we have developed, and if we're born in like a pretty good enough world of our little lives, individually speaking, subjectively speaking, then along with, sitting up, holding our head up, sitting up, crawling, walking, going to school, soothing ourselves, all these things, we're also developing and developing outward social skills. We're also developing our relationship with ourselves.
Mm.
And that supports a feeling of being secure within ourselves. And, so it's interchangeable with trust your gut, listen to your instinct, but also it calms us because I would never think that walking down a hotel hallway would be threatening, no matter who's in the hallway. I just wouldn't. But somebody who's had a traumatic experience, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or a
Mm-hmm.
very scared parent, overprotective, and very, overprotective and sheltering,
Yeah.
that person has lots of reasons to not listen to themselves and trust themselves because they haven't developed that relationship with themselves and that sense of security. And they have lots of reasons to feel threat if there are people they don't know, strangers in a hotel hallway.
Well, to your point, when I was in my low 20s, 23-ish, right around there, I had two situations. I was surrounded on a train, and they wanted to take my briefcase at the time. Not a big deal. There was another time
You were
where...
mugged.
Say what?
Mugged.
I wasn't. Nothing.
Oh.
It didn't happen, but it was concerning. What's in the briefcase? I'm like, mm-hmm. Then there was another time where an all-out brawl broke out between these individuals and my friends. We didn't do anything. They blindsided us. And I won't even go into the details. It was just crazy. I'm not worried or concerned. I'm just on alert. So like you say, there's maybe somebody sketchy in that hotel hallway. I'm not going to avoid that hotel hallway. No problem. I'm just going to be looking. That's it. I got you. I see you. And if I need to act, if probably not, it's there.
Yeah.
Just alerted,
Yeah. I mean, that's a great example and probably like a whole nother like half an hour lifetime of conversation. But listen, when people have these experiences that you've described that you've had, I'm an EMDR therapist. So I'm geared to helping people get to the root of, their vigilance. And I'm not saying that you're off the wall about that. I think it's
No.
sensible and it's proportionate, we could say.
I'm happy I do that. I'm not anxious.
Yeah.
It's that won't happen to me ever again. Why did it happen? I turned my back on somebody, and that's where I got clocked, and then that's ensued the whole big, brouhaha, if you will.
But I
Now,
like that. I like your processing of that.
now I'm just aware.
It's like, yes,
when I need to be.
Awareness is the key.
When I need to be. If I'm walking through New York City, there's a low level of me. I'm just looking, I'm observing. I'm not like, no, just looking,
Love New York.
What? That's it. Nothing more than that. Just the awareness. But for somebody else, that could elevate, like you said, I'm not going down that hallway. There's somebody in the hallway. Yeah, it's a cleaning person. I'm not minimizing anything, but we all deal with things in all different ways. Final question. Stress, anxiety, cortisol.
Yeah.
Are people, and I hear the release of cortisol dictate your weight, or can? or can?
Oh, it can. One of my philosophies, if I have clients who are struggling with weight, is helping them with stress management. Because for me, most people put on weight because of the release. And remember, we started with this, with that release of stress hormones. And one of them is cortisol that serves as like fat storage so that when we need to, we can really turbocharge our strength.
Yes.
When we need to. But for most of us, if we're stressed at that level day to day, and we're not getting rid of, we're not releasing that cortisol drop or dump, it just packs on.
Yep.
Yep.
I
And
went
same
through
with medications for all this stuff too.
Well, of course, you try to avoid that. So what's the option? Minimize your stress and
stress and manage your stress and identify it. And if there is a route to it that we can shift our perspective, you're good to go for the rest of your life. Well,
and I'll tell you at this point, the engineer on this show is having a stress response and saying that we have to wrap it up.
Oh yeah, we've got to go.
Not me. I don't
thanks.
care. I'm fine. I'm getting the, Susie, wonderful talking with you about this today. So paramount for all of us. And number of different things identified. And if it's not you dealing with an elevated level of stress, somebody who is, I'm sure, or anxiety.
Very common.
Best way to find you. How do we do that?
I think the best way is my website, and it's my full name, Susan Engel -LCSW. So it's SUSANENGEL-LCSW.com.
Always great talking with you. Love
Thanks, Steve.
Your level of being grounded and making this easy to understand. It's I never feel like I'm having a conversation with somebody who's gone through clinical training. Honestly,
that's a good thing. Yet I do everything according to brain research. It's amazing.
I'm not saying you don't. I love how you make it easy for the rest of us to understand in examples that we can understand. I appreciate that.
Very relatable.
Yes, you are. And looking forward next time we get together.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.